Really happy and glad to have some of the smart guys. They came all the way from Tokyo. So Una is the marketing. I let you introduce yourself.
Yeah. Hi everyone. I'm Una from Monaca and Onsen UI team, and I'm very happy to be here today. And very grateful to Sanja and Peter and to Matrix and all of you for coming. We actually came to US because of the Phone Gap Day. A few days ago, we spent 4 days in Utah, and Masa, our CEO, had a presentation there. And we decided to swing by a few other cities and see what the development needs are around here. We actually had a lot of page views from Dallas, and we wanted to see our community and how we can improve our product and bring better results. And today, our CEO Masa will present about our tool Monaca, which is the cloud platform and the debugger and set of plugins. And Andreas, who is the lead developer of Onsen UI, will talk more about Onsen UI framework, which is framework agnostic and has material and flat design, so there's very interesting things for you guys. Just to let you all know, we are going back to Japan, but we have a plan to come back again. And please stay in touch with us. And after this session, give us some feedback. We will share some information with you guys. So at a later point, if you have some ideas, if you want to share something with us, if you get into trouble, please feel free to contact us at any time and let us know how we can make your development easier. So yeah, that's it.
Hey, cool. Please welcome Masa and
Okay, so I will start this off. Okay. So I will talk a little about how you can prototype your UI design using Onsen UI, which is a framework that I'm working on over in Tokyo. And I will also quickly show a really simple app that I created for an IoT project that I'm working on at the moment, so it's not part of my work, which was pretty interesting to show. So my name is Andreas Argelius, and I'm originally from Sweden, but I recently moved to Japan, like 1.5 years ago, and I worked there with JavaScript development. And one of the reasons I moved to Japan was that I studied Japanese for a pretty long time. I thought that there's no sense in studying Japanese for like 4 years and then not use it, so I decided to move there. And you can do programming wherever you live, so it doesn't really matter where you live. And and I also run a lot. I'm going to run my first marathon in like 2 weeks, maybe a month. But I sprained my ankle like last year, and I haven't been able to run for like 4 months. So we'll see how that goes. But it seems like it's healed now. But yeah, maybe hurt to get again. And since I couldn't run for like 4 months, I started knitting. And me and my wife were having kids, like with twins, pretty soon. So I started knitting some things for them. It's very nice work. So over in Tokyo, I worked on something called Monaca. And Monaca is actually a bunch of different things. So I just go, Masa will show more later, but I just briefly explain what those are, some of them. So it's a building and packaging service. So you can build and package your hybrid apps or Cordova-based apps using our service. So you build your APK, for example, for Android. And we also have a cloud IDE, so it's a browser-based IDE, so you can do all of your development in the browser. And we also have a backend, so you can do push notifications, and we have you can store your users and your data in our backend and use that. So, sorry. And we also have a hybrid app debugger, which is a native app running both Android and iOS, where you can debug your apps. And great thing with it, every time you change your code using Monaca, it will instantly reload the code in the debugger, so you can develop pretty fast using this tool. So the thing I work most on is something called Onsen UI. And Onsen UI is a hybrid app UI component library. So it's a collection of UI components that you can use in your hybrid apps. And Onsen UI is open source, and we're on GitHub. And if you like it, please star us. We like getting stars on GitHub. So as I said, we're a collection of components. Oh, this is not good. Let's see. How do you reload on Mac?
Command R.
Command R. Okay. Oh.
Better connect to Matrix.
Yeah. How do I leave the full screen? I tried to skip. Oh, it's not here. Oh, no. Okay. So I should connect to another net. Oh, it's your.
Yeah. Maybe.
We can connect. I'm really sorry about this. Okay, now we're back. Where was I? I think I was there. Yeah. I'm here. Okay. Sorry about that. So as I said, we're a collection of UI components for hybrid apps. So I will just quickly show a couple of those components. This is really small. So we have, for example, switches for iOS in the also material design. Unfortunately, this screen is very small. You can see it. We have also a range of input objects for Android and for iOS, navigation bars, for toolbar. So we have all the components you need to create the UI for your hybrid app. The next slide. And I also like to briefly explain why we decided to call it Onsen UI. So Onsen is a Japanese word, and it means hot spring. And Japanese people, they really enjoy going to the hot spring, especially when they're off work, which they rarely are. They like to relax, so they go and take a bath in the hot spring. And onsen is often also translated to spa in English, which is quite convenient because it's also abbreviation for single page application, which we thought was pretty fun, so we choose that name. So Onsen UI, the current stable version is 1.3.15, but we're currently developing the next version, which will be 2.0, and we're currently in beta. And we will be going on to release candidates in the next few months, maybe in the next 2 months. And some of the new features in the new version of Onsen UI is that we introduced material design, so you can make apps that look like Android apps, not just apps. The previous version was only the iOS-based design. We introduced material design, so you can make apps that look native both on iOS and and it's based on the custom elements API, which is quite new. It's not that new, but it's been going on for a couple of years. So it's a part of something called web components, and it lets you define new tags, so new tag names. Instead of the usual spans and divs, you can create new names, which makes the code a bit easier to read. And you can use JavaScript to add new functionality to those elements. And we've rewritten everything using ES 2015. Which was previously known as ES6, which is the new JavaScript standard that was finalized last year. And there's a lot of new things, and the thing we like most is the new module system, so you can structure your code a lot more easily using ES 2015. So as I said, all of the components are implemented as custom elements, so you get nice new tag names, like we have the on switch, which just displays a switch on the screen. And you can add a modifier attribute to switch the design from iOS to Android. We also have the Android switch. And of course, we also have the new material design inputs with the floating label. So everyone's using Android. Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Is there support for Metro or modern design for Windows?
No, we don't support Windows, unfortunately.
Okay.
We get some requests sometimes. We're thinking about it, but we're right now focusing on iOS and Android.
Right.
So as I said, we have a bunch of different elements. We have dialogues, carousels, and we have grid layout, which is using the custom elements with the ons call and ons row. And we have popover, tab bar, a bunch of different elements. In total, there's over 50 different elements that you can use in your apps. And it's a pure JavaScript CSS framework. So Onsen 1 was based, we were using Angular directives to implement all the custom elements. But we've chosen to go a different route. So we use the custom elements API, which is an API that's available in the browser. Actually, right now it's not in all browsers, so we use Polyfill, but for example in Chrome, it's already been implemented. And this makes it a lot easier to integrate with other framework other than React. So since we don't have the React dependency. But since we want to have backwards compatibility with the previous version 1.3, we provide an Angular binding library. And we're also working on Angular 2 bindings, and they will be released pretty soon. Actually, a guy working on it right now. And we're also looking to support other frameworks such as Vue.js and React. We're also actually working right now on the React support. So you can use it right now. It's in beta, as I said, so there might be some bugs, but it's perfectly usable. But as I said, we have not integrated all the frameworks. Some frameworks, it's very easy to use it, even without any bindings, but frameworks such as React, it's a bit hard to integrate because of the virtual DOM. So we need to do some work to be able to use it nicely with React. So I will just briefly show how you can prototype a UI for a very simple app. So I recently started keeping fish in my house. I bought a small fish tank, and I have 3 guppies, and a couple of other animals. I have some shrimp, and I also have a small catfish, which is keeping the tank clean. So I just this app doesn't really do anything. It's just a prototype of a UI with some tabs, toolbar, and also the Android. It's called a floating action button, which does like a primary action of the app. So maybe if you click this, you can add a new fish. So I will just go through step by step how to prototype this UI. So you start your app with ons page on, and it actually doesn't display anything. It's just a white page, which serves as the root of the whole page. And then we can use the ons toolbar element to add toolbar to the top. This will be a material toolbar for Android. And we then go on to populate the toolbar. So we can add icons, buttons with some icons in, and if we're adding a button, we just use the ons toolbar button element. And we put the ons icon inside it. And we have the material icons integrated into the library, so you can use those. And so this is this layout is done using Flashbox, and we try to make it as we try to adhere to the material design specification as much as we humanly can. So it will look very similar to an Android toolbar. So you have the left where you can put like the hamburger menu, and in the center you put the div, the class center, you put the title of your app, and on the right you can put some additional buttons. So if we go on to the first step, we use something called the ons. We use something called the ons tab bar, which adds tab navigation to your app. So the ons tab bar has child elements called ons tab, which has a couple of parameters or attributes that you can use. For example, if you just put active on one of them, that means that would be the active tab when the page is loading. So it's the default tab of the app. You can put a label on it with the label attribute, and also a page attribute will tell the app or tell Onsen UI which template to load. when that tab is activated. So as I said, we have the page attribute, and it's a string. And to define those templates, we use the ons template element, and it's just an element which contains the template of the page. So we can put something like an ons list, which just displays a list inside the animals tab. I put my fish and my shrimps in here, and we have a list of all the animals in the fish tag. And of course, most Android apps, they have the floating action button for the primary action. So we just do ons tab, and we tell it to position it at the lower right. It actually defaults to the lower right, but I right was there anyway. And we can put the icon inside the floating action button, and we have a complete page. We also have, there's a bunch of apps where it's not just one action. You can have a couple of different actions. So we also have something called the on speed dial, which just displays a menu with a couple of other actions. So it could be a share button, and you can share on Twitter, Facebook, or Google+. So if we go on. So we have created a material design, UI for a material app. So how do we go on to just, if we put this on an iOS device, it would look like Android. So what do we do? Actually, see if this works. So actually we're implementing automatic style, styles based on platform. So actually it depends on the platform where you deploy your app. So it's rendered differently depending on iOS or it's on Android. So we get something like this if we run it on iOS without changing any code. The only thing we need to do is to remove the ons tab, because the floating action button doesn't really exist in the iOS world. There's no equivalent. So we would have to write some conditional code to put, I can scroll down. So maybe we can put a button instead of the floating action button to perform the same action. So that's it. We have now created a UI for app, and it's automatically switched depending on the platforms. And we haven't actually written any CSS or JavaScript to do this. So I will just briefly show an app I created, which actually does something. So as I said, I bought a fish tank, and I want to keep track of my fish, see if they're healthy. So I built a small Arduino project which tracks the temperature and the pH value and the oxygen and the amount of oxygen inside the fish tank. So I always know how my fish are. So this is how it looks in my fish tank right now. We have this on the right side, the black one is it's an oxygen probe. So it measures the amount of dissolved oxygen in the water. And this is the pH probe. And these are two of my fish. I have one more, but it's not. I couldn't catch all of them at the same time. And those probes, they're produced by a company called Atlas Scientific. They produce a lot of scientific equipment. They're quite pricey, but it's quite fun to work with. So the Arduino project, it just displayed it on this small OLED display. So I thought, I want to know wherever I am, I want to know the values of the fish tank, so I don't have to worry so much. So there's a small chip called ESP8266, which has Wi-Fi capability, and it's also programmable. So I can do everything with just this small chip, and it's about the size of my thumbnail. So it's a very small. It's an amazing chip. So I built it using this. It's just a shopping list if you want to build it yourself. I'm not going to go into this really. And you also need a lot of patience to work with this chip. It's not as easy as working with the Arduino, but like programming it takes a lot of time, and you need to reboot it all the time. But it's doable. So there should be an image here. This doesn't make much sense without the image. So I will skip this. I don't know where the image is. It's gone. Okay, sorry about that. So what I just wrote a simple program that runs on this chip, connects to my home network, and sends the data to Firebase, so I can visualize it in my app. I'm not going to go into the code, but I just want to show that it's very short. So this is the whole code running on the device, connects to my Wi-Fi, reads the temperature, and sends it to an URL. I go to the JSON and just post it using HTTP. It's pretty simple to work with this chip. I wrote an app using Onsen UI and also something called Vue.js for the data binding. It's a reactive front-end framework. It's very similar to working with React, but on the inside it's quite different. So it has one-way data binding and no dirty checking like Angular. So even if you have a lot of bindings, it's quite fast. And it's a very simple API. It doesn't have big built-in routing and no built-in AJAX functionality, so you need to add those yourself. And it doesn't use the virtual DOM as React does, but it's actually using the real DOM. And in some cases that will make it slower than React, but in most of the cases it doesn't really matter. It's quite fast. So this is just to show how easily we can integrate it with Onsen UI. We can create. I just created a component using Vue.js, which is called my dialog. And in the template, I just put the Onsen dialog element with some content, and we can have methods to show or hide it, and it can also listen to events. So when the show dialog event is emitted, this will catch it, and it will display the dialog. So I hope this will show up. I am connected. But it's not. I can show you later on my phone, on my computer. Yeah. So yeah, it will just display the dialog when you click the button. Sorry about that. I hope. Actually, nothing is loading right now, so I will just reload the whole. Oh, this is loading. I don't understand that. But it's not receiving any data. Okay, so I integrated the Vue.js and made a simple app. It took around 2 hours using the Onsen UI components, and this is created solely using Onsen UI components. So I added a dialog to switch between Celsius and Fahrenheit. Unfortunately, it's not working right now. Oh, it's loading the data. And I also show a graph in the right tab, which shows the historical data. But there's something wrong right now. I'm not sure what. I'm really sorry about that.
Is that a charting library? Or is
Yeah,
that part of Onsen UI?
This is not part of Onsen UI. The chart is the chart.js.
Chart.js.
Yeah.
Is that based on V3?
No, it's actually Canvas, I think.
Canvas.
So it's not SVP. Yeah. I'm really sorry about it. I don't know why it's not displaying correctly. Okay. I have this on my phone as well, so I can show you if you want to. Okay. So thank you very much for listening. And if you have any questions,
move to preview slide.
oh yeah, made it. I will post the slides in the meetup group after this, so you can see them. Okay. Any questions? Okay, thank you very much. Thanks. Yeah. Okay, so Masa will tell a little about Monaca now. So.
Please give me maybe a couple of minutes.
It needs a few minutes to prepare.
Yeah.
So in the meantime, we will just distribute a little present that we prepared for you from Japan. It's a Japanese multi-purpose towel, which is called toolbar, and usually people use it when they go to onsen. So before we heard from Andreas, with onsen. It's a Japanese flower hot bath. So I hope you guys enjoyed, and some stickers and.
I got one.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'll pass them down. Oh, thank you. Sorry about the other. Oh, you got it.
How was it?
Yes.
Nice gift.
Oh, we're glad you like it. Yeah, you also have the activation code if you decide to take any kind of license with Monaca. Awesome. We have 50% off.
Thank you.
How did you like Andrea's presentation? Any thoughts, any feedback?
It was interesting.
You're gonna try Onsen UI, or
Yeah.
is it something that you think you can use in your daily developing process?
We provide a related tool to partner with it. So you're not so much an end user as much as another provider that.
All right. So may I start? Okay. Well, nice to meet you. Nice to meet you. My name is Masa Tanaka. I'm Japanese and they're not, obviously. I've actually lived in Texas before. Like
Yeah.
you. Actually, in Dallas, Texas, in Plano, when I was very small. But oh, is there anybody who actually lives in Plano now? Oh. Yeah. Thanks. Because I'm about to cry when I landed DFW Airport because I came to Dallas, Texas after 25 years.
Oh, yeah.
I was like 9 or 10 years old at that moment. Imagine that, like I was like, born and grew up in, of course, in Kyoto, the city called Kyoto in Japan. I didn't speak any English at all. But because my dad was actually working for Texas Instruments, my family had to, move into Dallas, Texas, where, my mom, me, and my little sister don't speak any English. So we've had so difficult time at that moment, or maybe something very embarrassing. When we first, went to the elementary school in Plano, Texas. But it was, well, thanks to, people living in Texas or Dallas, that they taught me how to speak English. So, yeah, so maybe I'm more like an accent in Texas rather than maybe somebody, making fun of me. But yeah, that's my story. So, well, I only been here for 1 year, and I went back to Kyoto again when I entered middle school. So I only had 1 year experience here when I was 5th grade. But it was there are so many memories here. So today I went to the elementary school, and I graded some of the teachers over there, and I also went to my old house. It was still existed. It didn't change anything. So yeah, there was a basketball, like a hoop,
Yep.
where my dad buy for me, and it was still
Oh,
there.
cool.
Pretty excited to see it. So yeah, it's something I would like to share with you. Well, anyways, so yeah, that's my story. But so after I come back to Tokyo and I went to the university in Tokyo, I started this company. So this company is running for 13 years now. It's more like a self-serve, like a small company rather than a startup, like what we see in Silicon Valley. It's still self-funded. We only have 50 people, but we managed to get it profitable. So it's running up. What our company is doing, maybe we have here. So as Andreas described to you, we have two flagship products for the global market. One is Monaca, which is the dev tool suite, which I wanted to demonstrate today, and also Onsen UI, which he already demonstrated, which is a UI framework. So I also have to talk about a little bit of our background behind this thing. So as I mentioned, I started this business 13 years before. What are our company doing? Well, actually, they actually joined pretty recent. So because they're just like 1 or 2 years before. What we've been continuing to do in Japan is to serve our development for enterprise companies in Japan. That's like a system integration, what we say. So we create lots of backend applications using PHP or maybe Node.js or Ruby. We also create many front-end applications using iOS native like Objective-C or Android Java, mostly for B2B or B2E applications. And 7 years ago, well, the iPhone maybe 4 or 5, we actually figured out there is a hybrid application and we want to make use of it. But unfortunately, over the time, the speed, the performance was not good. And maybe you know, but Japanese people, Japanese clients are pretty picky about the quality. So they dislike, hybrid applications. But we still thought, so we sometimes created applications using native technologies because that's much more performant. But we also thought that hybrid application should have should be more performant than what it is the last year because I don't know, maybe I forgot to put the slide because when we compare the two different devices like back in like 2009 where there is a first Xperia Android device 1.6 versus the latest Xperia Z5, I remember the CPU speed is almost like 15 times much quicker than the one that is sold 6 years before. So there is a famous Moore's law, which means like double the speed in 18 months, which actually applies to mobile market these days. So we can expect a higher performance device upcoming in next year, and of course the following year we have maybe 3 times more performance devices. So eventually hybrid applications should have should have no performance impact compared to the native applications, and that's what we're wishing, and that's what we are hoping. And these days, maybe from last year, we have so much tractions even from Japanese enterprise companies because they also thought the same way, and some of them, those companies already figuring out that hybrid applications are already durable and already mature. The only reason why they cannot pick hybrid applications is more because of the lack of the support or lack of the documentation or maybe lack of the how to develop an awesome application or performant application kind of thing. That's why we created this Monaca 5 years before because developing a hybrid application can be like a nightmare actually because we have to deal with many platforms and for example, I'm using Windows and Windows machine cannot actually build for iOS usually. So Monaca have to will provide iOS development functionality even though we are using Windows because we are providing remote build functionality kind of thing. Same as Onsen UI, we realized that we need a super efficient UI library to make hybrid applications effective because at that moment we used jQuery Mobile or whatever the other frameworks, but none of them are performant and clients didn't want to use it. So that's why we are keeping on investing on the UI framework. And now Onsen UI is turning to 2.0. So it is pretty important to mention that Onsen, so there are so many UI libraries, but I will say no major UI libraries are actually completely independent of JavaScript frameworks. Some of them are like dependent on Angular, or some of them are dependent on jQuery, or some of them are React framework. That's because those frameworks provide the level of code separations and code capsulization. But the fact is that once you actually there's no we cannot predict what kind of framework will be popular in the future, and there's a very good web standard called custom elements, which is part of the web components, which we can use already. So that's why we want to remove the dependency from AngularJS and making it completely independent, so for example, if you're even use Angular 1 and you want to switch to Angular 2, all the views will be preserved because all the HTMLs will be exactly the same, because the Onsen 2 is just a collection of tags, and those tags will provide all the functionalities and styles and CSS which Andreas has demonstrated. So at this moment, as Andreas mentioned again, we support jQuery and Angular 1.x, and we're right now working on supporting Angular 2 and React, and we will support other frameworks in our new future so that most of the popular frameworks can use Onsen UI 2.0 seamlessly. That's our idea, and that's something we would like to do, so that people can pick whatever the favorite framework they have already acquired, or maybe wishing to switch over, but still keeps the same concept. So those are some components. Andreas already demonstrated some of them, so I don't want to spend so much time having this. But so something like switches, those are more like Android material designs. We have volumes, like progress bars, buttons, inputs, dialogues, and we also have, of course, we have iOS variants like switches, ranges, which Andreas has described also. So yeah, we have over 50 components, and we're trying to add more components. If you guys send up GitHub issues, send us feedback, or yeah, we're even trying to add some more components, more like a native, like a animation effect. Like Android has the ripple effect, which is pretty very difficult to calculate in JavaScript, but we're trying to emulate as much as possible, so that the people don't have to don't feel weird when they use their own applications, because Japanese people are very picky and they know the difference. So that's why we are trying to create no difference. So they're doing pretty good job for this, because they're actually taking screenshot of the native Android and then putting it into this screen and adjusting pixel by pixel, even the animations. So that's why it should be 100% perfect. So that's how we're developing things. So talking back to the presentation, actually I want to spend some more time demo. But before then, I want to introduce a little bit more about Monaca. So as I mentioned, Monaca is a tool for developing hybrid applications, and this is actually not a sales talk. So I want to more describe about what is hybrid applications and how you develop. So hybrid application is of course an application made by web technologies, but it doesn't mean it is the same as web apps, because web application you usually use a tag to switch over to the next pages. But if you do that in the native application or hybrid application, the users easily understand that this is not a real application, because usually the pages will be transitioned or up and down, and there should be dialogues or there's a floating buttons. So those are something Onsen UI is dealing with and trying to solve those issues. Whereas Monaca is more like people frustrated of I'm using Windows, but I need to develop for iOS, or maybe people who's frustrated with I want to do more debugging. I want to know more information about the device. How the device is running. Those are something. So a tool that Monaca is trying to solve. So we have 4 development environment, browser-based, and we also have desktop applications that runs natively on your desktop, or CLI interface, which I want to demonstrate today, and Visual Studio extension if you're pretty picky about Visual Studio. Yeah, the left, the Visual Studio extension is more for Japanese users, because there are so many. Microsoft is doing pretty good job, having the developer network. Maybe that's the same in Dallas, but I'm likely in San Francisco, so that's why I'm pretty curious. But yeah, so that's why we're also creating Visual Studio extension. And also the Monaca debugger. So this tells how, it is a companion application for your development, and you use this tool, which you can download from Google Store or Apple Play, and insert, install on your phone, and that device instantly can be synced from the device, from your PC, with or without the internet. So this is pretty this is totally different, way of debugging and running applications. I will show you later. So from here, I would like to do some demos, 5 demos maybe, but if time allows. But actually, this computer is not my computer, so I'm not sure how much demo I can do with this. But I'll try to do. So, oh yeah, it has a little bit network latency, but this screen you see is actually the screen on my device, my Xperia. And what I would like to do here is I'm opening up the CLI, and so maybe some of you haven't figured out what is Cordova, or maybe what the hybrid application looks like. So I just briefly want to explain how it looks like. So this is the project, one project called Onsen UI material toolbar. Maybe a little bit difficult to see, and I actually didn't enable modifier, so sorry for that. There is a file called config.xml, which is a configuration for Cordova. And other than that, there's a double folder, and if you look into it, it's just like a document root of a website. So it's pretty much the same as website, but I mentioned, even though the technology is same, the user interface is totally different. That's why we need Onsen UI. But the way to develop is almost the same as creating a website. But you cannot use backend technologies like PHP or Ruby or Java inside this application. That's the only difference. So I'll just go into double. It's not color highlighted. Do you remember the one for highlighting? Sorry. Highlight. Sorry, I forgot. Or maybe she's not into this. Anyway, so this is the index.html. This is like a pretty simple application actually, which I will show you later, which have a body, and it will include navigator.html once the application is loaded. What I want to do from here is I want to execute this application. So what I do is I go into the project directory. I already installed Monaca CLI using npm-g install Monaca. So there's Monaca command. This is a CLI, and I just do Monaca lifesync. Okay, let's see if it's a tree. Okay, now it says network connected on the debugger side, which means I started the file watch here on the CLI. So the debugger found that I started the CLI, so it gets the information from my computer here. So when I click on here, I have to do it. You see the CLI mentioned saying that the debugger is now requesting files, and I have to wait for the syncs to be done. Okay, so there's 67 files because I'm not compressing anything, but okay, so it's executed. So this is the Onsen UI made contact application, which shows my personal contact application, personal contact information, which is a little bit scary, but you have you have like a pretty good ripple effect and animations. This is more intended for the Onsen UI demo, so you material design demo, so you figure out how it looks like. So now I want to do some fun part. So this is the application which, so I want to demonstrate some live reloading here. So inside www, there is a navigator HTML, and this is the HTML which has the actual content inside here. Within this Onsen navigator, let's see, a little bit smaller. No, full screen. Oh, this is good. Okay. There we go. Maybe I can make it even more shorter. Okay, here we go. And we want to compare. So a little bit difficult to see, but there's Onsen navigator. This have this navigation control, and Onsen page, and Onsen toolbar, which is a toolbar. And inside this toolbar, there's the sender class, which have contact us, which obviously is here, and we have Onsen icon, which is icon, which has a search icon, which represents here, and one more button with an icon more vert. Maybe it means more vertical. And then there's a Onsen fab. This component represents this thing. We put in right button, and we have class or whatever. So let's see if I can, well, easily, I just change this to left button and see how it looks like. So I save it, and it suddenly, live loaded and switch it to the left. So that's how, this Monaca and Onsen UI works. So all the HTMLs are tags in Onsen UI, and whenever you change it and when you save it, it automatically pushes those changes back to the debugger, and the debugger will run and execute as expected. So this is a process which we are using to release our application for our clients, and we are providing this public as and naming it Monaca. So these are some tools that we have, but so maybe you figure out how easy it is to create a mobile application, but I want to go a little bit more from here. So inside the debugger, when I click on the Monaca logo here, there is a couple of options, and I want to click here. This is the inspect button. Oh, I didn't connect it yet. Oh, sorry about that. What it does, when I plug in, it will provide advanced USB debugging if this computer is already configured. And I'm a little bit concerned, but let's see. Come on. Oh, failed. Oh, yeah. Yeah, this might not work because I haven't tested yet. Let me do once again. Oh, yeah, it doesn't. Yeah, if it works, this CLI, this is even CLI. It actually has a web interface in the CLI, which is a little bit strange, but it will pop up the DevTools inspector, and you can start, edit, say toggling breakpoints or setting breakpoints. But you actually have what you have to do is you have to authorize on this map that you want to, use this device for the debugging, and it is obviously it is not done yet, so that's why. Anyways, so that's the way we provide a tool. But from here, I want to show a little bit more about our tools. So maybe I'm going to application for Cordova Trace right away from here, because actually in PhoneGap Day, this is the same demo that I did in PhoneGap Day. I also demonstrated how to work with Circle CI, which is like a continuous integration, which you can build, and and Monaca will check the build. So when you make a push to GitHub, Circle CI will run, and it will trigger Monaca remote build, and it will remote builds and push it back to you. That's the demo I did in PhoneGap Day. But I'm not doing it. But I just want to describe a little bit more features. So if you type on Monaca, you will see some more commands available. So something interesting is maybe Monaca upload. So if you do Monaca upload, where it uploads to is my project in the cloud. So when I do this, okay, so it's already in sync. So it will upload my change into the cloud so that you can continue editing this application. So let me try what it looks like when uploading this. So I'm going to Monaca, which is our website, and I have to wait for a moment. Okay, so I'm logging in now. Okay, I log in. And I get a dashboard, cloud-based dashboard, and you see contact application already in sync. So I open this, and what happens? So this is a browser-based IDE, which you can still continue, editing your application online, and you don't need CLI interface at all. Well, actually, you can actually start your project from scratch using our browser interface, and so that's up to you which to start with. But if you want to start your project, you just click on New Project, and this will show up, all the templates that we provide. Well, there are so many templates, and some of them are like a game application, some of them are like Onsen UI based tools, and some of them are jQuery. So yeah, there are obviously so many templates, and we also provide many sample applications as well. Okay, so this is how the IDE works. This is a preview, which I'm going to close it for now. But we have the editor, and we can open the files. I think it's better to switch to Best. Okay. So for example, if we open Navigator, you can have like a nice code completion here. So it's pretty much like a IDE, but it's limited compared to what you use locally. But it's just very good for your, for checking the source code right away, or maybe asking somebody else to just quickly fix something, because it's online and you can share the project amongst the team. We also provide some features like push notifications, or maybe like user management or cloud collection inside this tool. Our remote build services, so you can use our backend to accept push notification and send it to the users. So those are pretty much included into this IDE. So my final demo actually is not actually it's not a demo, but more like showing what we created, and hope you like this, because switch over. So it's called Cordova Quest. As a Japanese, we like games, and this is actually the real actual name is Cordova Final Quest, so which is a combination of Final Fantasy and Dragon Quest. So this is a source code which is written in a library called Pixie.js, and there's a framework called RPG Tool, which is more like a Japanese framework, but easily create RPG games. So I want to show you what this game looks like. So I'm going back to Mobizen. I want to execute. Hand up. I hope this will show. Okay. Okay, here it is. So I'm launching debugger. I'm executing Cordova Quest. Just to demonstrate, I want to go back to Safari, And from here, there's a button on Run on Device. So when I click on this, you will see the debugger synchronizing the source code, and it will run my application here. It actually have a little bit of the background sound. Is it possible if you actually turn on the volume?
Should be on.
Should be on? Yeah, there it is. Okay, good. So our team created this thing for the PhoneGap Day because we want to demonstrate how much we like Cordova. So let's see. This is a game. I'm already open sourcing this, so you can download from my GitHub repo. Sorry, the frame rate is not good, but it actually works pretty well here. It's just this connection between here is not good. So, so Cordova was previously called PhoneGap, and once Adobe acquired Nitobi, which created PhoneGap, PhoneGap have become as an Adobe project, and Cordova become open source project of PhoneGap. And now we are also contributing to Cordova, and all the other folks like IBM, Microsoft, Google, they're also contributing to Cordova. So that's what I want to say. So there's Cordova, 2011. We are going to, conquer the development environment. So this is like a game. So it's more like an RPG. And I just wanted to just quickly jump because there's not so many stages here. So when you open the box, you can get like a HTML5, or when you go here. It's pretty hard. Come on. There we go. You get Onsen UI, and if you run on new level, but you still cannot go here because if you send up here, you'll get some damage. After you get Monaca. Okay. Okay. And then you can get the, and then there's a, and this already open. When you come here, there are the two final boss. So the stage is pretty small. There's already like this is the final boss. And there's a client and boss in front of you, so you have to fight with them. Yeah, I forgot to translate that part. After finding them, they're pretty weak because Cordova is a robot and they're more like a humans, but that's the end of the story, and he conquered this world. So this is something I wanted to introduce, but well, there's one more thing here. I don't know if this works or not because this is my second experience. Actually, this when you look at this source code, you will notice inside here, you see this is actually a Cordova application. So this game actually where you see right now is not using any Cordova features at all. This is just a pure HTML5 application which using the web audio. But here you see device ready. It actually adds a thing called plugin. Maybe some of you already know about plugin. This is the beauty of Cordova. So Cordova have a bunch of plugins available. It's created by either like individual developers and making it open source, or it might be created by the company like us to provide more additional features to the Cordova or PhoneGap. So for example, this is the plugin management screen. So for example, we have some integrations. So those are something we provide by default. So some of the interesting is like push notifications. You just click on here and enable to make push notifications work on your device. And we're actually dealing with many Japanese enterprise customers, and they're developing banking applications using our tool. So they are very picky about security as well. So we're creating secure storage plugin, or we also provide in-app update or plugin. This is the beauty of Cordova actually, because this actually will allow the developer to replace the source code without getting the Apple's approval. Because usually the native applications requires a review, but if you enable this plugin, and once you get approved for Apple, you actually can, virtually, you can just, upgrade any place of your application into a different application. But yeah, obviously Apple don't like that, but that is technically possible. And there are some other plugins. And one of the plugins I'm enabling here is called iBeacon plugin. So maybe you know about iBeacon. This is like Apple's specification, but it also works in Android, which there's a transmitter which transmit called beacon, 24 hours, 365 days until the battery is drained, and all those capable devices are able to find where those beacons and get some information. So it will transmit. It in practice they send the ID information that is unique to each beacons. So we usually figure out which ID it is and compare with our database and figure out what we should do with it. And actually, the beacon transmitter can be replaced in a mobile phone. So I'm trying to make this as a beacon transmitter. And you see here, there's a couple of calls, so when we look for the beacon and when it's found, I'm adding some more applications here to switch them to some different state. So please give me some time to activate the transmitter. Okay, here it is. So I'm not transmitting it, but I will transmit after this game is running. So I'm just keeping this here. And so this is the debugging tool from the debugger. So let's see if I can make them together. Okay. So actually, already at this stage, this debugger, so this is running on debugger, obviously, because there's the Monaca logo. And this debugger is already connected to this cloud ID. So debugger can get connected to the cloud environment. So if you want to say like alert, hello, Dallas. If I do something like this, and if I hit enter, it will be popped up in the debugger screen like this. So it is like a bi-directional communication is possible. You can also check the elements. It's obviously like this game is more like running on Pixie, so it's all canvas actually. But you can still search for whatever. You see some screens will change, yeah, something like this. So yeah, you can change the styles within this here. Okay, but anyways, so I'm going to start a new game again. But this time, I want to transmit this iBeacon right after we get into the game screen. Okay. We saw that before. Okay, so now I'm going to transmit iBeacon. Here we go. I hope this will get some information. Here it is. You see, maybe it's difficult to notice, but I added one more treasure box here, and you see the debugger side. It says, I found this beacon, which is UID here, and this is the strength of the signal. So it's pretty close. It's minus 61 decibel. I don't want to, play this game longer, but when I pick this, you essentially get a new version of Onsen UI, and you can, immediately Okay, and this door opens and you can immediately go to the last stage. So that's how this game works. Anyways, so that's the demo that I wanted to do today. So get back to my slides, which I don't have so much left. Okay, so we did all the demo besides this. If you have interest in continuous integration, just ask me. I will show you how to do this. So for Monaca, there's some issue here. Okay, but anyways, so we provide all the functionalities, including development, testing, building, deployment, backend, and in so many ways. Today I didn't describe too much about Windows support, or I didn't talk about so much about in-app update and enterprise build. But those are also, of course, capable. And also for the backend systems, we provide push notifications or cloud database. So almost everything is covered in our toolset. So that's why it is very difficult for us to explain what is Monaca. But I will say, Monaca is more like a complete set of dev tools available for developing Cordova and PhoneGap. And so that's why we have so many users in Japan. We have around 120,000 users. Actually, number 2 user base is in United States. And why I'm come to Dallas is because we actually search for which cities or which metro regions are more used by and we figure out that number 1, of course, is San Francisco, the Bay Area, but the number 2 was actually New York, and number 3 was Dallas, Texas. That's why we decided to come here, because I think there should be much more opportunities, and there should be much more people who knows about us, and much more people who don't know about us. So that's why I wanted to describe about our story and describe about. And I personally wanted to come to Dallas. That's actually the most important reason, because there's no reason for me to come to Dallas besides this meetup. So that's why I wanted to have some sort of excuse to my team coming to Dallas, Texas, and see my my old house and my elementary schools. Anyways, so that's the end of my presentation. Hope you like it. And if you have any questions, please just chat with me further. Well, thanks so much. So I don't know. Shall we start?
Do you have any questions or feedback? We take anything.
Awesome.
Oh, thanks so much.
Very impressive.
Thanks so much. Oh, so I already put those slides in the slide share. I think Una will share this afterwards.
Yeah, we should.
And also for the RPG demo and other demos, we have repositories. So this is the source code of the application. So yeah, feel free to use it if you want, and you can change to your own company's boss to fight with, fight against. Shut up. Yeah. So that's it. Thanks.
He spent some time discussing Onsen as the name. Where does the name Monaca come from?
Monaca, it's a snack. There's a snack called Monaca in Japanese, which exactly like this shape, and that's more like red beans stuffed in it, and with wafer. Yeah, and we expect the developers can stuff your thing into our wafer, so that we will pack it up and create an awesome, very tasty application.
You may have covered this, and I would have missed it, but form-based interfaces like user interfaces, log-on, authentication, how do you handle that element of the applications?
Sorry, what's it? Is it
so for and maybe it was touched on here on the interface side, but for user interface, for data interface elements, I saw forms on your list.
Oh yeah, we have quite a few input interfaces. Where is it?
At the end there you had back-end user management, and I was wondering what the interface side of that user interface is.
Oh, I see. Okay, so that's here. I didn't demo this, but I can quickly show you. Like new app. I can I can easily create a new backend application using this IDE, and this is the interface. So if you want to set up push notifications, you can come here. Or of course, we provide server-side APIs as well, so you can directly send push notifications from your server. And you can just title. Or if you want to say you want to create a connection, like you can just create a connection with some privilege, and essentially you use our backend JavaScript API to store those information, or you can manage over here, or manage from your server. That's how it looks like. Yeah. Any other? Yeah.
Do you have any future plans to support development on wearable devices?
Wearable? We do provide. We don't provide officially, but we support Cordova plugins, which talks with iWatch and Android Wear. I remember. Yeah. So there is a plugin for that. So yeah, it's mostly it's not intended for creating applications that runs inside that phone, but it's more like this device, this mobile phone transmits some notification and the user receives or sends some feedback. Yeah, that's possible.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there won't be a component library.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, that's that's one of the library. Yeah, I think we haven't blogged anything about it, but I think we should. Yeah, it's in Cordova plugins, but yeah, we need to switch iWatch. Yeah, I forgot what the plugin name is. Yeah, it should be.
That's a quick question. After you build, you can deploy it to the App Store, right? After you build, you can deploy it to the App Store for
Yeah.
your.
Yeah.
Okay.
So if you build for iOS, there are 3 options: debug, ad hoc, release. Release build is for App Store. Ad hoc is more for the internal distribution. Debug is more for intended to install to your device. Custom debugger build. This is a little bit different. This enables to create your own debugger, because debugger requires Cordova plugin, custom plugin. So if you want to create application using iWatch extension, you have to create your own debugger to do it, to make it work. And this in-app update is something like as I mentioned, it's for creating a package for replacement inside this application.
For the iOS, you still need the Apple machine, right? You cannot use Windows to release.
Yeah, you can use. And even we also provide the store submission feature as well.
So you don't have no dependency on the machine.
Not at all.
Oh, really? Oh, that's nice.
So yeah, you can just use Windows and release build, and after finishing up the release build, you can directly go to the submission page, and you can just submit within the browser.
So, yeah, I hate the Mac. Also, that's very complicated.
Okay, I think, yeah. Well, if you remain here for a while, we're very proud to talk and chat and get feedbacks, or otherwise, yeah. Thanks so much for hearing us. That's the end of the meetup for today, right?
Yeah.
You have any sales talk? Or,
Yeah, that's right. So yeah, as I give us some feedback, and yeah, see you next time, hopefully.
Great.
Thanks so much.
Thank you for the presentation and thank you for the swag.
Oh,
You also
yeah,
appreciate
yeah,
swag.
exactly.